The great meeting hall buzzed with hundreds of different voices. Some sounded like musical notes, others like grinding metal. The massive dome stretched high above, showing the swirling purple clouds of the gas giant below. Representatives from across the galaxy had gathered for this special session of the Galactic Council. Ambassador Zethkar stepped onto the speaking platform. His insect-like body gleamed under the bright lights. 4 arms gestured as he spoke, and his voice carried clearly through the translation devices everyone wore. "Friends and allies," he began, his mandibles clicking with each word. "We face a serious problem. The humans have been part of our military alliance for 3 years now. In that time, they have caused nothing but trouble." Murmurs spread through the crowd. Some delegates nodded their agreement, others shifted uncomfortably in their seats. "They ignore orders from superior officers," Zethkar continued. "They break formation during battles. They make reckless decisions that put entire fleets at risk. Just last month, a human captain named Jake Coleman abandoned his position to chase after enemy fighters. His actions nearly cost us the battle." A Vega 7. The Quellian representative, a tall crystal being that sparkled like a diamond, stood up. "The ambassador speaks truth. Human emotions make them unpredictable. They cannot be trusted in serious military operations." "I agree," said the Kresh delegate, her insect eyes glowing red. "My hive warriors report that humans often disobey direct commands. They claim to follow their instincts instead of proper battle plans." Zethkar raised all 4 arms for silence. "This is why I propose we ban all humans from military service in our combined fleets. They are too primitive, too emotional, too chaotic for civilized warfare." The hall erupted in discussion. Delegates from dozens of species talked among themselves. Some seemed excited by the proposal. Others looked concerned. The Nyx Collective's representative floated forward. It looked like a cloud of glowing gas held together by some invisible force. When it spoke, its voice sounded like wind through caves. "The humans have won several battles for us," it said slowly. "Their methods are strange, but they get results sometimes." "Results?" Zethkar's voice rose higher. "They get lucky sometimes, nothing more. Real military strategy requires discipline, planning, and logical thinking. Humans have none of these qualities." A small, furry delegate from the Valderan system squeaked up from his seat. "But what about the siege of Proxima Station? The human, Commander Lisa Grant, saved thousands of lives when she broke protocol to evacuate civilians. She got lucky," Zethkar snapped, "and she could have gotten everyone killed with her reckless behavior. We cannot build a military strategy around luck and emotion." Chancellor Mordeth, the session's leader, called for order. Her blue skin pulsed with soft light as she spoke. "The proposal is clear. All in favor of banning humans from military operations, raise your voting device." Lights began appearing across the great hall. Red lights meant yes votes. Blue lights meant no. Green lights meant abstaining from the vote. The counting went quickly. Red lights far outnumbered the blue ones. When the final tally appeared on the main screen, the result was clear. 847 votes in favor, 156 against, 97 abstaining. "The motion passes," Chancellor Mordeth announced. "Effective immediately, all human military personnel will be removed from joint operations. The human government will be notified within the hour." Zethkar's mandibles clicked with satisfaction. He had won a major victory for what he saw as military common sense. Far away on Earth, Admiral Jake Murphy sat in his office at the Pentagon. The walls were covered with star charts and battle reports from the Outer Rim territories. At 62 years old, Murphy had seen more space combat than most aliens would ever experience. His aide, Captain Lisa Grant, entered the room carrying a sealed message tablet. Her face was grim as she handed it to him. "Priority message from the Galactic Council, sir," she said. Murphy read the message twice. His weathered face showed no emotion, but his knuckles went white as he gripped the tablet. After 30 seconds of silence, he set it down on his desk. "They've banned us," he said quietly. "Sir? Complete military withdrawal. All human personnel to be removed from joint operations immediately. We're out." Captain Grant's eyes widened. "On what grounds, sir?" "Emotional instability. failure to follow proper military doctrine, reckless endangerment of Allied forces. Murphy's voice was steady, but there was steel underneath. They think we're too primitive for their civilized warfare. What are your orders, sir? Murphy stood and walked to the window. Below, hundreds of military personnel went about their daily duties. Ships launched from the nearby spaceport, heading for assignments across human space. These men and women had fought and died alongside their alien allies for 3 years. We comply, he said finally. Begin immediate withdrawal of all human forces from joint operations, but Lisa... Yes, sir. We keep monitoring their communications. We keep our ships ready, and we keep preparing for whatever comes next. Captain? Grant nodded. You think they'll need us again? Murphy looked up at the stars through his window. Somewhere out there, reports spoke of a new threat. The Devourer swarm had been consuming star systems on the galaxy's edge. The alien fleets had been struggling to contain them even with human help. They will, he said. The question is whether they'll swallow their pride in time to ask. Over the next few days, human ships began their journey home from dozens of star systems. Soldiers, pilots, and support staff packed their gear and prepared to leave posts they had held for years. Many of them had formed friendships with their alien comrades. Commander Ben Taylor oversaw the evacuation of Firebase Delta in the Centauri system. His counterpart, a Vorthak officer named Kexalar, approached him as the last human transport prepared to depart. This is wrong, Kexalar said, his translator giving his words a mechanical tone. Your people fought well beside us. Orders. Our orders, Taylor replied. But thanks for saying so. The Devourer threat grows stronger each day. We may need your unconventional tactics. Taylor paused at the transport's entrance. You know where to find us. As human forces withdrew across the galaxy, alien commanders found themselves facing the growing swarm threat with reduced numbers and capabilities. The humans had often served as shock troops, willing to take on the most dangerous assignments that other species considered too risky. Back on Earth, Admiral Murphy called together his senior staff. The briefing room was filled with Earth's best military minds: Colonel Steve Barnes from Intelligence, Commander Nancy Phillips from Special Operations, and Dr. Kevin Walsh, their top expert on alien technology. The withdrawal is complete, Colonel Barnes reported. All personnel are back in human space or en route. Good, Murphy said. Now we prepare for what comes next. The aliens think they can handle the Devourer swarm with their textbook tactics. They're wrong. Dr. Walsh leaned forward. The swarm's technology adapts to conventional strategies. Every engagement makes them stronger and smarter. The aliens' predictable tactics will be their downfall. Which is why we're going to do things differently, Murphy said. Nancy, I want you to begin Project Wildcard immediately. If the aliens won't let us fight beside them, we'll prepare to fight for them. Commander Phillips smiled grimly. Already started, sir. We've been developing new tactics based on what we learned fighting alongside the aliens. If the swarm thinks it can predict human behavior, it's in for a surprise. As the meeting ended, Admiral Murphy remained at the conference table. He stared at the tactical displays showing the galaxy's current situation. The alien fleets were competent, well-trained, and disciplined. They followed every rule of military engagement perfectly. But sometimes, Murphy knew, perfect wasn't enough. Sometimes you needed a little chaos, a little unpredictability, a little human madness to win the day. The aliens would learn that lesson soon enough. The only question was how much they would lose before they figured it out. 3 months had passed since the human withdrawal. The galaxy felt different now, quieter somehow. The absence of human voices in military communications left an unexpected emptiness that many alien commanders tried not to think about. Commander. Thexanol stood on the bridge of the Vorthak flagship Eternal Glory. His 4 eyes studied the tactical display with growing concern. Red markers showed the advance of the Devourer swarm across 12 star systems. Each marker represented billions of lives lost, an entire world stripped bare of resources. Status report, he demanded from his bridge crew. Science Officer Veltar looked up from her console. Her antennae twitched nervously as she spoke. The swarm has consumed the Altair system completely, sir. All 3 planets have been reduced to metal debris. Intelligence estimates they harvested enough materials to build 50 new ships. Thexnol's mandibles clicked with frustration. How many ships did we lose in the last engagement? 47 vessels from the combined fleet, sir. The Quellian crystal ships suffered the worst casualties. Their energy weapons seemed to have no effect on the swarm's adaptive armor. The bridge fell silent. Everyone knew what those numbers meant. The Devourer swarm grew stronger with every battle, while the Allied forces grew weaker. Their perfect formations and textbook strategies meant nothing against an enemy that learned from every encounter. Communications Officer Raxton spoke up from his station. Sir, we're receiving a priority message from Fleet Admiral Korthax. Put it through. The holographic image of the fleet's supreme commander appeared in the center of the bridge. Admiral Korthax was a Nyx collective entity, his gaseous form shimmering with stress patterns that even other species could recognize. Commander Thexenol. The Admiral's voice echoed strangely. I need your honest assessment of our current situation. Thexenol straightened. The swarm adapts faster than we can develop new tactics, sir. Every strategy we employ becomes useless after one engagement. They learn our patterns and counter them perfectly. And our casualties? Unsustainable, sir. At this rate, we'll lose another third of our forces within 2 weeks. Admiral Korthax's form flickered with what looked like anger or fear. The Council is demanding results. They want to know why our superior technology and training cannot defeat these machines. Feltar stepped forward hesitantly. Sir, if I may, the humans used to handle our most unpredictable assault operations. Their chaotic attack patterns seem to confuse the swarm's targeting systems. Silence, Thexnol snapped. We don't need those primitive mammals. We are superior tacticians with centuries of military experience. But even as he said it, Thexnol remembered the Battle of Kepler Station. Human Commander Danny Brooks had broken formation completely, leading his squadron in a spiraling attack that made no tactical sense. Somehow it had worked. The swarm ships had hesitated for crucial seconds, unable to predict such irrational behavior. The memory made Thexenol uncomfortable. He pushed it away and focused on the current crisis. Meanwhile, far from the battle zones, the human vessel, New Frontier, drifted in the empty space between star systems. Officially, they were conducting deep space research. Unofficially, they were monitoring alien military communications and tracking the swarm's advance. Commander Ben Taylor sat in his captain's chair, reading the latest intelligence reports. His crew was smaller than most military vessels, but each person had been handpicked for this secret mission. Lieutenant Amy Rodriguez, the ship's tactical officer, looked up from her console. Sir, we're picking up another distress signal from the Rigel sector. Sounds like the Kresh fleet got hit hard. How hard? 30 ships destroyed, 15 more badly damaged. The survivors are retreating toward the core systems. Dr. Kevin Walsh, the ship's xenobiologist and intelligence analyst, shook his head sadly. The pattern is becoming clearer every day. The swarm encounters a new alien fleet, analyzes their tactics during the first few minutes of combat, then systematically destroys them using perfectly calculated counter-strategies. Taylor nodded grimly. What's our current distance from the nearest swarm activity? About 40 light-years, sir, reported Navigation Officer Rachel Stone. We're safe, for now, but they're moving in our general direction. Sir, Dr. Walsh continued, I've been analyzing the combat data we've intercepted. The alien fleets are fighting exactly the way their military academies taught them. Perfect formations, logical weapon deployment, predictable maneuvering patterns. It's like they're following a textbook. Communications specialist Tony Martinez spoke up from his post. That's the problem, isn't it, Doc? The swarm has probably analyzed thousands of battles by now. They know the textbook better than the aliens do. Exactly, Walsh said. But human tactics were never based on textbooks. We fought on instinct, creativity, and what the aliens called reckless improvisation. Taylor stood and walked to the main view screen. Stars stretched endlessly in all directions, looking peaceful and safe. But he knew that appearance was deceiving. Somewhere out there, mechanical death was spreading across the galaxy. "Sir," Lieutenant Rodriguez said quietly, "the alien commanders are brave. They're dying trying to protect their people. But they're dying because they can't think outside their training." "I know," Taylor replied. "And soon, the swarm will be strong enough to threaten human space directly." Tony Martinez looked up from his communications console. "Sir, we're intercepting a lot of chatter about evacuation plans. Some of the outer colonies are already abandoning their worlds." "The smart ones are," Dr. Walsh said. "But running will only delay the inevitable. The swarm won't stop until it's consumed everything." On the bridge of eternal glory, Commander Thexnell received another grim update. The Proxima defense fleet had been completely destroyed. Admiral Korthax's own flagship had barely escaped, with critical damage. "Sir," Veltar said softly, "perhaps we should consider alternative strategies. Such as, the humans developed some unusual tactical approaches during their time with us. Maybe we could study their methods and adapt them to our own forces." Thexnall's mandibles clicked angrily. "We will not lower ourselves to copying primitive human tactics. We are civilized warriors, not barbarians." But privately, he was beginning to wonder if civilization was enough. Every battle report showed the same pattern: initial engagement, swarm analysis, alien defeat. The machines were learning faster than living beings could adapt. Communications Officer Raxton interrupted his thoughts. "Sir, emergency signal from the Centauri defensive line. They're under heavy attack by a massive swarm force." "How massive?" "Over 300 vessels, sir. And they're using new weapon configurations we've never seen before." Thexnell closed his eyes. 300 ships meant the swarm had grown far beyond their worst estimates. Every battle they lost made the enemy stronger while their own forces dwindled. "Set course for Centauri," he ordered. "Maximum speed." "Sir, our orders were to maintain defensive positions around—" "I know what our orders were," Thexnell snapped. "But if Centauri falls, the core worlds will be exposed. We have to try." As eternal glory jumped to hyperspace, Veltar quietly ran calculations on her console. The numbers were not encouraging. Even if they arrived in time, their chances of victory were less than 12% using conventional tactics. She thought again about the humans and their chaotic fighting style. Maybe chaos was exactly what they needed against an enemy that had learned to counter everything logical and predictable. But she kept that thought to herself. Commander Thexnall had made his position clear, and questioning superior officers was not the Vorthak way. Back on the new frontier, Commander Taylor received word of the Centauri battle through intercepted communications. He watched the tactical data stream across his screens, showing alien ships moving in perfect formation toward certain death. "They're going to lose," he said quietly. "Yes, sir," Dr. Walsh agreed. "And when they do, the swarm will be one step closer to human space." Taylor made a decision that would have gotten him court-martialed under normal circumstances. "Amy, begin recording everything. Every battle, every tactic, every mistake the aliens make. If we're going to face that swarm eventually, we need to understand exactly how it thinks." "Recording all frequencies, sir," Lieutenant Rodriguez confirmed. As the battle at Centauri began, the human crew watched in grim silence. They were witnesses to the systematic destruction of galactic civilization, powerless to intervene but determined to learn from every tragedy they observed. The aliens had banned them from the war, but the war was coming to them whether they liked it or not. The emergency session of the Galactic Council looked nothing like the confident gathering from 3 months ago. Half the seats stood empty. Many delegates had fled to their homeworlds or were already dead. The ones who remained showed clear signs of fear and exhaustion. Chancellor Mordeth called the session to order, but her usual calm authority was gone. Her blue skin had turned pale, and the light patterns that normally pulsed steadily across her body now flickered erratically. "The situation report," she began, her voice shaking slightly. "In the past week we have lost 17 more star systems. The Devourer swarm now controls over 60% of the Outer Rim territories. Gasps and worried whispers filled the chamber. Even though everyone knew the news was bad, hearing the actual numbers made it feel more real and more terrifying. Ambassador, Zethkar struggled to his feet. His once proud carapace was cracked and scarred from his narrow escape when his home fleet was destroyed. 2 of his 4 arms were in mechanical braces, and his voice had lost its earlier confidence. Honored delegates, he said slowly, we must face the truth. Our conventional military strategies have failed completely. The swarm learns from every battle. It adapts faster than we can change our tactics. What do you propose? Asked the Quellian representative. The crystal being's normally bright surface had turned dull gray with stress. Evacuation, Zethkar said quietly. We must abandon the outer territories and concentrate our remaining forces around the core worlds. Perhaps we can build stronger defenses closer to home. The chamber erupted in angry voices. Delegates shouted over each other in dozens of different languages. The translation system struggled to keep up with the chaos. Abandon billions of civilians? Cried the Valderan delegate. Those worlds are already lost. Zethkar shot back. We cannot save the dead, but we might save the living if we act quickly. Chancellor Mordeth raised her hand for silence, but it took several minutes before the shouting died down. When she finally spoke, her words carried across the hushed chamber. There is another option we have not discussed. Every eye in the room turned toward her. Even the floating gas form of the Nyx representative seemed to focus its attention. The humans, she said simply. The silence that followed was complete. No one moved or spoke for long seconds. Zethkar's mandibles began clicking rapidly. No, absolutely not. We will not grovel to those primitive savages. Primitive savages who never lost a battle against the swarm, Mordeth replied quietly. They were lucky, Zethkar insisted. Their reckless tactics might have worked once or twice, but what? Interrupted the Kresh delegate. Our careful tactics have failed completely. Maybe reckless is what we need. Other voices joined the debate. Some delegates supported reconsidering the human ban, while others held firm against the idea. The argument grew heated as fear and pride battled in every mind. Dr. Yathara, a small scientific advisor from the Centauri colonies, stood up shakily. I was at the Battle of Kepler Station, she said in a tiny voice that somehow carried through the chamber. I saw Commander Lisa Grant break every rule of engagement to save 3,000 civilians. Her actions made no sense according to our military doctrine, but it worked. One example proves nothing, Zethkar growled. Then what about the Vega 7 defense? Asked another delegate. Human Captain Jake Coleman ignored direct orders and pursued enemy fighters. His squadron destroyed a swarm command ship that our sensors had not even detected. Or the Proxima Station evacuation, added the Valdoran representative. Human forces held off a superior swarm force for 6 hours using tactics that our computers said were impossible. Zethkar looked around the chamber desperately. You're talking about lifting a ban we imposed for good reasons. Humans are unstable, emotional, unpredictable. And those might be exactly the qualities we need, Chancellor Mordeth said firmly. The swarm defeats logical opponents by outthinking them. Perhaps we need illogical allies. Meanwhile, on Earth, Admiral Murphy was holding his own emergency meeting. The Pentagon's war room buzzed with activity as officers and analysts worked around the clock to track the swarm's advance. Colonel Steve Barnes spread out holographic star charts showing the current situation. Red zones marked swarm-controlled territory, while shrinking blue areas showed the remaining Allied forces. They'll reach the core systems within 72 hours at their current rate, Barnes reported. The alien fleets are in full retreat. Commander, Nancy Phillips looked up from her tactical displays. Sir, our deep space monitoring stations are picking up massive swarm movements. They're consolidating their forces for a final push. How massive? Murphy asked. Over 800 vessels, sir. And these aren't the simple harvester ships they started with. These are fully adapted warships incorporating technology from every species they've defeated. Dr. Kevin Walsh joined the briefing from his analysis station. The pattern is clear, Admiral. The swarm has been using each battle as a learning experience. They now have weapons designed specifically to counter Quellian: crystal armor, Vorthak energy shields, Kresh swarm tactics, and Nyx phase-shifting abilities. Murphy studied the tactical displays with grim determination. And human tactics. They've never faced sustained human resistance, sir. Our withdrawal meant they never had the chance to analyze and adapt to our fighting style. That might be our only advantage, Murphy said. Nancy, what's the status of Project Wildcard? Commander Phillips smiled for the first time in days. All units are ready, sir. We've been developing new tactical approaches based on everything we learned fighting alongside the aliens. If the swarm thinks it can predict human behavior, it's going to be surprised. How surprised? We've been running combat simulations. For months, sir. Traditional human tactics would eventually be countered by the swarm's adaptive systems. But we've developed something new. Something that doesn't follow any pattern at all. Colonel Barnes looked intrigued. What kind of pattern? No pattern, Phillips explained. Each engagement will be completely different. No repeated maneuvers, no standard formations, no predictable responses. Pure improvisation based on real-time conditions, Dr. Walsh nodded approvingly. Controlled chaos. The swarm's AI will have nothing to analyze because there will be no underlying system to understand. Admiral Murphy felt a grim smile cross his face. The aliens banned us for being too chaotic and unpredictable. Time to show them why that's exactly what this galaxy needs. Communications Officer Lieutenant Paul Carter interrupted from his station. Sir, we're receiving a priority transmission from the Galactic Council. It's Chancellor Mordeth herself. Murphy straightened. Put it through. The holographic image of the Council's leader appeared in the center of the room. She looked exhausted and desperate, her usual dignity replaced by obvious fear. Admiral Murphy, she began without preamble, the Galactic Council needs to speak with you urgently. We need to discuss the current military situation. I thought humans were banned from military operations, Murphy replied coolly. Circumstances have changed, Mordeth admitted. We are prepared to reconsider our previous decision. Reconsider? Murphy's voice carried just a hint of steel. Chancellor, with respect, my people have been watching your fleets get destroyed for months. We know exactly how badly this war is going. Then you'll help us? Murphy paused for a long moment, looking at the faces of his officers. Each one had been working tirelessly to prepare for this moment. We'll discuss terms, he said finally, but not as junior partners taking orders. If you want human help, you get human leadership. Chancellor Mordeth's image flickered as she considered this. In the background, Murphy could hear angry voices, arguing in the council chamber. I will discuss this with the other delegates, she said. How long do we have? According to our intelligence, the swarm will reach your core systems in less than 3 days, Murphy replied. After that, this conversation becomes academic. The transmission ended, leaving Murphy and his staff alone with the weight of the galaxy's survival resting on their shoulders. Think they'll agree to our terms? Colonel Barnes asked. Murphy looked at the tactical display showing the swarm's relentless advance. They'll agree. Pride is a luxury they can no longer afford. And if they don't, then we fight anyway, Murphy said quietly. Because when the swarm finishes with them, we're next. The Rigel system had become the galaxy's final line of defense. Every surviving alien warship from dozens of species gathered in a massive formation around the system's central star. This was their last chance to stop the Devourer swarm before it reached the core worlds where billions of civilians waited in terror. Admiral Zethkar stood on the bridge of his new flagship, Final Victory. His old ship, Eternal Glory, had been destroyed 3 battles ago, and he had barely escaped with his life. Now he commanded what remained of the galaxy's combined fleet. 2,000 ships representing the last military strength of 7 different civilizations. Fleet status report, he ordered, his voice hoarse from exhaustion. Fleet Coordinator Nexara consulted her displays. All vessels in position, sir. The Quellian crystal ships form our main battle line. Kresh swarm fighters are positioned for flanking maneuvers. Vorthak heavy cruisers anchor the center. And the Nix Collective? Their phase ships are ready to provide support and evacuation assistance if needed. Zethkar studied the tactical display. Every ship was exactly where military doctrine said it should be. Their formation was perfect, their battle plan flawless according to centuries of strategic thinking. If this had been a war against any normal enemy, they would have been unbeatable. But the Devourer swarm was not normal. "Sir," Communications Officer Raxton called out. "Long-range sensors detect the swarm approaching. Estimated time to engagement, 47 minutes. How many ships? Sensors show..." "Sir, this can't be right." "Report. Over 1,000 vessels." "Sir, but these readings, the swarm ships are 3 times larger than anything we've seen before. They must have incorporated materials from every system they've consumed." A chill ran through the bridge crew. Everyone knew what those numbers meant. The swarm had grown far beyond their worst estimates. Science Officer Veltar looked up from her analysis station. "Sir, I'm detecting new weapon configurations on the swarm vessels. They appear to have integrated countermeasures for every type of defensive system in our fleet." Zethkar's mandibles clicked nervously. "Meaning?" "They know exactly how to defeat us, sir. Every tactic we might use, every weapon we might fire, every defensive maneuver we might attempt. They've seen it all before." The bridge fell silent. The implications were terrifying, but undeniable. The swarm had been learning from every battle, and now it knew how to counter everything the aliens could do. Meanwhile, at the edge of the system, the human stealth ship Ghost Rider maintained its hidden position. Commander Danny Brooks and his crew watched the alien fleet's preparations with growing concern. "They're setting up exactly like the tactical manuals say they should," observed Navigation Officer Rachel Stone. "Perfect formation, logical positioning, everything by the book." Communications Specialist Tony Martinez monitored the alien fleet's transmissions. "They sound confident, sir, but their private communications tell a different story. The senior officers are scared." "They should be," said Dr. Marcus Webb, the ship's tactical analyst. "I've been studying every swarm engagement for months. The aliens are about to walk into a perfectly calculated trap." Commander Brooks nodded grimly. "The swarm has fought these exact tactics dozens of times. It knows every move they'll make before they make it." "Sir," Tony Martinez spoke up again, "should we break communication silence? Try to warn them?" "With what? They banned us from military operations, remember? Besides, they wouldn't listen even if we tried." On the bridge of Final Victory, the final preparations were complete. Every alien captain knew their role. Every crew member understood their duty. This was their civilization's last stand, and they would meet it with honor and courage. "Swarm vessels entering weapons range," reported Tactical Officer Quindar. "They're maintaining standard approach formation." "All ships," Zethkar announced over the fleet communication channel, "execute battle plan Delta 7 on my command. Remember, we fight not just for ourselves, but for every world behind us." The alien fleet moved with precision and grace. Quellian. Crystal ships formed the front line, their weapons charging with brilliant energy. Kresh fighters swarmed forward in perfect attack formations. Vorthak cruisers positioned themselves for maximum firepower overlap. It was a beautiful sight, representing the pinnacle of galactic military thinking. The Devourer swarm responded exactly as their adaptive AI calculated they would. Swarm ships spread into counter formations designed specifically to neutralize each alien tactic. Their weapon systems reconfigured in real time to exploit every weakness in alien defensive systems. The battle began with a spectacular light show as thousands of weapons fired simultaneously. For the first few minutes, it seemed like the aliens might have a chance. Their superior numbers and coordinated tactics inflicted significant damage on the swarm's front lines. But then the swarm's true nature became apparent. Every alien attack pattern was met with a perfect counter. Every defensive formation was penetrated at its weakest point. The swarm ships moved with mechanical precision, executing maneuvers that no living commander would attempt because they required split-second timing across hundreds of vessels. "They're predicting our every move," Veltar reported in horror. Every time we change tactics, they're already responding before we complete the maneuver. Zethkar watched his perfect battle plan fall apart in real time. The Quellian ships, arranged in their traditional crystal formation, were being systematically destroyed by swarm weapons specifically designed to shatter their crystalline hulls. The Kresh fighters, swarming in their ancestral attack patterns, flew directly into defensive grids that had been calculated to trap exactly that type of movement. "All ships, execute emergency maneuver Alpha 9, he commanded desperately. But the swarm was already moving to counter Alpha 9 before the alien ships could complete the formation change. It was as if the machines could read the aliens' minds. "Sir," Communications Officer Raxton called out urgently, "we're receiving priority messages from multiple ships. Heavy casualties across all formations." The tactical display told the story, in brutal detail. Red icons marked destroyed alien vessels, while the swarm ships showed minimal damage. What had started as a 2-to-1 advantage for the aliens was rapidly becoming an even fight, then shifted towards swarm superiority. "How is this possible?" Zethkar whispered. Veltar had the answer, though she wished she didn't. "They fought these exact tactics before, sir. Every formation we use, every maneuver we execute, every weapon configuration we employ. They've seen it all in previous battles and calculated the perfect counter for each one." In desperation, Zethkar tried one last gambit. All remaining ships break formation, attack at will, every ship for itself. But even chaos had patterns when it came from trained military minds. The swarm's AI analyzed the seemingly random movements and found the underlying logic that guided each captain's decisions. Within minutes, the scattered alien ships were being picked off one by one. Aboard the Ghost Rider, Commander Brooks watched the slaughter with growing horror. "They're not just losing," he said quietly. "They're being systematically destroyed by an enemy that knows exactly what they're going to do." "Sir," Tony Martinez said urgently, "the flagship is sending out a final transmission." On his bridge, with fires burning around him and half his crew dead, Admiral Zethkar made his last official act as a fleet commander. He opened a channel to the entire galaxy, knowing that somewhere someone might be listening. "To all free worlds," he said, his voice steady despite the chaos around him. "This is Admiral Zethkar of the Galactic Defense Fleet. All defensive lines have failed. The Devourer swarm will reach the core systems within days. Our tactics, our strategies, our entire way of warfare has proven inadequate against this enemy." He paused as another explosion rocked his ship. Through the smoke and flames, he could see swarm vessels closing in for the kill. "We were wrong," he continued. "We were wrong about many things. May the gods forgive us for our pride." The transmission cut to static as mechanical tendrils tore through the Final Victory's hull. Commander Brooks ordered his crew to record everything. Every detail of the battle, every failed alien tactic, every successful swarm countermove. If humanity was going to face this enemy, they needed to understand exactly what they were up against. But more importantly, they needed to understand why conventional tactics failed so completely. "The swarm isn't just advanced," Dr. Webb observed, as he analyzed the battle data. "It's perfectly logical. It calculates the most efficient response to every stimulus. But logic has one weakness." "What's that?" Brooks asked. "It can't predict true irrationality." "And humans," Webb smiled grimly, "are the most irrational species in the galaxy. As the last alien ships died in the Rigel system, the Devourer swarm began consuming the system's resources, growing even stronger for their final assault on galactic civilization. But unknown to them, human ships were already moving into position. The real battle was about to begin. The emergency session of the Galactic Council met in a hidden station deep in unexplored space. Only 37 delegates remained from the original 1,000. The rest were dead, missing, or had fled to their home worlds to await the end. Chancellor Mordith called the session to order, but her usual authority was gone. Her blue skin had turned almost gray with exhaustion and fear. The light patterns on her body flickered weakly like a dying star. "The Devourer swarm will reach our core worlds within 72 hours, she announced to the small gathering. "All conventional defenses have failed. We have lost over 90% of our combined military forces. The chamber was eerily quiet. No one argued or offered suggestions. Everyone knew the truth. They were facing extinction. Ambassador Zethkar slowly rose from his seat. His once proud carapace was cracked and dulled. 2 of his 4 arms were gone, lost when his flagship was destroyed at Rigel. His voice, once confident and commanding, now shook with defeat. "Honored delegates," he said quietly, "I move that we begin immediate evacuation procedures. We cannot win this war. Perhaps some of our people can escape to distant galaxies and survive." "Run away?" The Valderan delegate's voice was barely a squeak. "Abandon everything our civilizations have built? What choice do we have?" Zethkar replied. "The swarm learns from every battle. It adapts to counter every strategy we can devise. We are fighting an enemy that cannot be defeated by logical warfare." Chancellor Mordath was about to put the evacuation motion to a vote when the chamber doors burst open. Admiral Jake Murphy strode in, flanked by Captain Lisa Grant and a full security escort of human soldiers. The remaining delegates gasped in shock. Some reached for weapons that were no longer there. Others simply stared in disbelief. "You cannot be here," Zethkar managed to shout. "The ban on humans is still in effect. This is a violation of—" "The ban," Admiral Murphy interrupted, his voice cutting through the chamber like a blade, "is about to become the least of your problems." He signaled to Captain Grant, who activated a massive holographic projector in the center of the chamber. The air filled with 3-dimensional images from the Battle of Rigel system. But these were not the recordings the aliens had made from their own ships. These images came from hidden human vessels that had watched the entire battle from concealment. "You mocked us," Murphy said as the footage began to play. "You called us primitive, emotional, chaotic. You said we were unsuitable for civilized warfare." The holographic display showed the alien fleet in its perfect formation, every ship in exactly the right position, every weapon system optimally placed, every tactical formation flawlessly executed according to military doctrine. "Look at yourselves," Murphy continued. "Perfect discipline, perfect coordination, perfect tactics." Then the display showed the Devourer swarm's response. The mechanical ships moved with calculated precision, countering every alien maneuver before it was even completed. The footage showed how the swarm's AI had predicted every move the aliens would make. Dr. Kevin Walsh stepped forward, his analysis appearing as overlay data on the holographic battle. The swarm's artificial intelligence is perfect for fighting logical opponents. It analyzes patterns, predicts responses, and calculates optimal counters. Against disciplined, predictable enemies, it cannot lose. The delegates watched in horrified silence as their proud fleets were systematically destroyed. Every careful strategy, every perfect formation, every textbook maneuver was met with an equally perfect counterattack. "But," Murphy said, his voice growing stronger, "perfection has one weakness." The display changed to show new footage. Human ships engaged swarm vessels in 3 separate battles that had taken place over the past day. The aliens gasped as they watched something they had thought impossible, the Devourer swarm losing. "Impossible," whispered the Quellian delegate. "How are the humans winning?" Commander Ben Taylor entered the chamber, carrying a data tablet with battle reports. "We've been fighting the swarm for 18 hours, he announced. 7 engagements, 6 victories, 1 tactical withdrawal. We've lost 12 ships, but we've destroyed over 40 swarm vessels." The chamber erupted in shocked whispers. The idea that anyone could defeat the swarm seemed like fantasy after months of devastating losses. The holographic display showed human battle tactics in detail. Ships broke formation without warning, executed impossible maneuvers, made decisions that violated every principle of space combat. One human captain flew his ship in a corkscrew pattern, while firing randomly in all directions. Another abandoned his squadron to chase a single enemy fighter, leaving his wingmen to improvise their own attacks. "This makes no sense," Zethkar said, his mandibles clicking in confusion. "These tactics are insane. No rational commander would fight this way." "Exactly," Murphy replied. "The swarm's AI is built to counter rational tactics. It predicts logical responses and calculates optimal strategies. But human warfare isn't based on logic. It's based on instinct, creativity, and controlled chaos. Lieutenant Amy Rodriguez provided detailed tactical analysis. Every human captain makes split-second decisions based on intuition and battlefield awareness. We don't follow predetermined patterns because we don't have rigid doctrine. The swarm's computers can't predict what we're going to do because even we don't know until we do it. Dr. Walsh highlighted specific moments in the battle footage. Watch this engagement. The swarm ships position themselves to counter a standard flanking maneuver, but the human commander ignores the flanking opportunity completely and attacks straight through the center. The swarm's AI was so focused on countering the logical move that it left itself vulnerable to the illogical one. Chancellor Mordeth leaned forward in her seat. You're saying that our greatest weakness is our strength? Your discipline and training made you predictable, Murphy confirmed. The swarm learned to read your minds by studying your patterns, but you can't read a mind that changes its thoughts every few seconds. Another section of footage showed a human squadron that had been surrounded by superior swarm forces. Instead of fighting defensively or attempting to break out, the human ship suddenly accelerated directly toward the largest enemy vessel, firing everything they had in what appeared to be a suicide run. At the last second, they scattered in different directions, leaving the swarm ships confused and vulnerable to attack from an unexpected angle. Madness, breathed the Nix collective representative. Effective madness, corrected Commander Nancy Phillips as she joined the group. We've identified the swarm's critical weakness. Their adaptive AI becomes paralyzed when faced with truly irrational behavior. They're built to solve puzzles, but we don't fight like puzzles. We fight like chaos. The footage continued to play, showing battle after battle where human unpredictability triumphed over swarm logic. Ships that should have been destroyed survived through impossible maneuvers. Attacks that should have failed succeeded through sheer audacity. Ambassador Zethkar stared at the images in disbelief. Everything he had believed about warfare, about military science, about the superiority of disciplined tactics, was crumbling before his eyes. We were wrong, he whispered. We were completely wrong. Yes, you were, Murphy said without sympathy. But wrong can be corrected if you're willing to swallow your pride. Chancellor Mordeth stood up slowly. What do you need from us, Admiral? Complete military authority over all remaining forces, Murphy stated. No interference, no committee. Decisions no second guessing. You let us fight this war our way or you fight it without us. That's impossible, protested the Kresh delegate. We cannot simply hand over command of our fleets to the only people who know how to win, Murphy finished. Look at your tactical displays, look at the footage, we're the only ones who have figured out how to beat the swarm. The chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. The humans weren't asking to join the war as junior partners. They were demanding to lead it. Colonel Steve Barnes stepped forward with the final piece of evidence. We've located the swarm's main command cluster. It's a massive vessel that coordinates their entire network. If we can destroy it, the rest of the swarm will lose cohesion. But it will take everything we have, and it will require tactics so unpredictable that even our own allies won't understand what we're doing. Chancellor Mordeth looked around the chamber at the faces of the surviving delegates. Each one showed the same mixture of desperation and hope. All in favor of granting Admiral Murphy complete military authority, she said formally. Every hand in the chamber rose. Even Zethkar, swallowing the last of his pride, voted in favor. The motion passes unanimously, Mordeth declared. Admiral Murphy, the fate of galactic civilization is in your hands. Murphy nodded grimly. Captain Grant, signal all human fleets. Tell them it's time to show this galaxy what real warriors look like. As the council session ended, the footage continued to play on screens throughout the station. For the first time in months, the surviving delegates felt something they had almost forgotten. Hope. The humans were coming to save them all, and they were bringing their beautiful chaotic madness with them.